The doors to the Viridian Tea House are open once more. Hello everyone, I'm back. I've got tons of books and tea to talk about. So before I begin, I just have a couple of announcements. So recently I did the Magic Makers Market with Ant Life Space. For those of you who don't know, it's a really cool once a month event. Now it's being expanded to 3 times a month until October. And it's all things witchy and metaphysical and just be your own damn self. And I always look forward to the event. And there's also great music, and you never know who you're going to talk with. You never know what kind of conversations you're going to have. Tons of artwork, tons of lotions and salves and sprays and all sorts of things. So many thanks to the folks at Magic Makers Market, especially Jackie. Thank you so much, Jackie, as always, for having me at your event, and I will see you guys next month too. Let's see what else. Oh yes, so one thing that I've started to do, well actually I used to do this for my tea company and then I stopped for years, and now I'm back to making them again. If you follow me on Etsy, Viridian Tea Company, you've already seen the new listings, and it is for sampler size bags. Now these are the same size bags that I've been using. I switched out bags, so you still get the full $10 worth of tea, but then I thought, this is also a nice size for just doing like a 1 to 3 cup sampler. So I don't have samplers for all of my blends, but if you go onto my Etsy store, and I'll post it on this video, you can see what samplers I have available. And going forward, every blend that I have in stock will also have the sampler size as well, because I thought, I've met a lot of customers who don't know me, and that's, they don't know me, they don't know my tea. So instead of spending $10 for a bag of tea, some people do, I give them the option of the sampler, and I started selling them at the Magic Makers Market, and it did really well. So yes, so be on the lookout for more and more samplers coming up. But you can go to my Etsy store right now and see what samplers I have in stock. So like a couple that I've pulled from my inventory, there's Tea of the Necropolis and Gray Matter, which is a really good one. And oh, that's another Gray Matter too. So Gray Matter is inspired by my boyfriend's work, his 3 books. And it's a black tea, ginger, spearmint, and cinnamon. But you don't have the full bag. You just have enough for like 1 to 3 cups. And if you don't like it, you've already spent $2, and it's not too bad. Tea of the Necropolis, which was inspired by my Order of the Black Silk Dark Fantasy trilogy. This is black tea, elderberries, and blackberry leaves. So these 2 blends and many more are available on my Etsy site for samplers. Just look up the different samplers and have yourself a ball. All right, so let's get to the books, shall we? So this first author, I have heard so much about him, and I tried to read some of his work and I couldn't get into it. I was just like, what is this? I know I'm pretty intelligent, but I feel really stupid right now. This is Milan Kundera. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But this particular book, The Festival of Insignificance. So I tried to read The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I think that's right. And I was like, I don't know what I'm reading. And I stopped and I put the book away, and I said, I can't, I don't know what's going on. Well, then I read one of his nonfiction books about the art of the novel and just his experience of being a novelist. And then suddenly it clicked, like a light went off in my head, and I went, oh, now I know how to approach you. So with the Festival of Insignificance, and special shout out to Denver Public Library, let me just read the dust jacket for you. Casting light on the most serious of problems, and at the same time saying not one serious sentence. Being fascinated by the reality of the contemporary world, and at the same time completely avoiding realism. That's the Festival of Insignificance. Readers who know Kundera's earlier works Know that the wish to incorporate an element of the unserious in a novel is not at all unexpected of him. In Immortality, Goethe, I think I said that right. Goethe, yeah. And Hemingway stroll through several chapters together, talking and laughing. And in Slowness, Vera, the author's wife, says to her husband, "You've often told me you meant to write a book one day that would have not a single serious word in it. I warn you, watch out. Your enemies are lying in wait." Now, far from watching out, Kundera is finally and fully realizing his old aesthetic dream in this novel, which we may easily view as a summation of his whole work. A strange sort of summation, strange sort of epilogue, strange sort of laughter inspired by our time, which is comical because it has lost all sense of humor. What more can we say? Nothing. Just read. I honestly couldn't have said it better myself, because you have two stories going on at the same time. You have one story that deals with Stalin, and then you have another story in somewhat modern day France regarding these men who are friends and are going to a party, and the philosophical discussions, and the two stories kind of come together and kind of weave themselves in and out of each other and then go their separate ways. It's an unserious novel, and yet after reading his book about the art of the novel, I get it. I really can't say too much more about it, except I'm glad I read it. It challenged my brain. And I didn't think that this story was very linear, but when you stop fighting and you stop saying, well, this is how it's supposed to be, this is how it's supposed to go, he's not doing it like it's supposed to be. When you cut all that crap out and you just accept his words for what they are, and you allow them to come into your brain and come into your soul and your essence, you'll understand him. And actually, my copy of the book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, I hope I'm saying that title right, I kept my copy because I said, now I understand him. He's one of those authors that I am quickly learning. There's your average author, and then there's him, where he's like, no, really, hold my philosophical beer. I'm about to turn novels upside down, 180, inside out, and hand it back to you, and you're going to thank me for it. And I thank him for it very much. So for the Festival of Insignificance, it receives Viridian Tea House's 4 pots of tea. The only reason why I didn't give it a 5 is because a couple of the passages really confused me, and I was like, wait, what just happened? And there were several sections that I read them like twice and thrice and 4 times, but I just accepted his words as his words. I didn't try to force them into what I thought a novel should look like, and I accepted his writing simply as his writing. I'm probably being redundant, but no, if you've not read Milan Kundera yet, I highly recommend him. I really do. I'm putting him in that special category with Marcel Proust and Émile Zola, those authors. Yeah, so I truly did enjoy this. And once again, thanks to Denver Public Library for having this book and many of his other works too, which I think I've got one of his other books on hold right now. So thank you. So the next book begins with one of my all-time favorite lines. Let me read it to you. Let's see. Last night, I dreamt I went to Mandalay again. It seemed to me I stood by the iron gate leading to the drive, and for a while I could not enter, for the way was barred to me. There was a padlock and a chain upon the gate. I called in my dream to the lodge keeper and had no answer. and peering closer through the rusted spokes of the gate, I saw that the lodge was uninhabited. You know, one of my all-time favorite movies is Rebecca, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, with Laurence Olivier and Joan Fontaine and George Sanders, Judith Anderson, and Gladys Cooper. Love, 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 love this movie. If you are into gothic stories with, full of ghosts and secrets and lies and treachery and deceit, all with, Laurence Olivier, you cannot go wrong with Rebecca by Hitchcock. And I finally read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And this is such a classic. And I don't know why I waited so long to read this book, because I love the story. Well, they always say that the book is a lot better than the movie sometimes. As much as I loved the movie, I really enjoyed the book, and this is one where both were kind of about the same. So if you don't know the story about Rebecca, let me read it to you. Let's see. Since its original publication 55 years ago, Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca has been a perennial favorite, a classic throughout the world. Set at the great Cornwall estate of Manderley, one of the most famous country houses in England, the story has an immediate urgency, a brilliantly created atmosphere of suspense. As the novel opens, Manderley's glamorous mistress, Rebecca, has been dead for 8 months, drowned in a tragic sailing accident. But her legacy lives on, especially in the mind of Maxim de Winter's young and frightened second wife. Through her eyes, we come to know Rebecca, from the tall and sloping R with which she signed her name, to the way she so meticulously organized the magnificent annual costume ball that was attended by the whole countryside. Du Maurier's tale is deeply moving, weaving together the lives of her superbly drawn characters to create an atmosphere that alternates between the doom of impending disaster and the ecstasy of an exquisite love story, and delving deeply into the inner workings of the minds of men and women to create this unforgettable drama. No kidding. I mean, it is very much a luscious, exquisite, and deadly Gothic tale. And Rebecca, as the book says, has been dead for 8 months, yet she is the central character. She's also the linchpin, and she is the catalyst. And because of her, it's amazing how, because of one character, everyone put on such airs and such smiles, and everything is wonderful, everything is grand. And then after that person dies, you realize, no, it's not. I especially love the fact, I was kind of wondering if in the book, the young wife would be unnamed, just like in the movie, and she is unnamed. She only receives a name after she marries Maxim de Winter, and she becomes Mrs. de Winter. One of the most horrific characters ever in literature is in this book, Mrs. Danvers, the head housekeeper of Manderley. You watch this woman, this character, just unravel, because you realize Rebecca was her whole life. Rebecca was her raison d'etre, her reason for existence, all of it. And so when Mrs. de Winter, the second Mrs. de Winter, comes into Manderley, Mrs. Danvers feels threatened in a way. But add to that, like I said, intrigue and suspense and tragic love stories and what else? Lies with Laurence Olivier in the movie. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier is very much a classic, and I know you probably can't see it, but the cover has the sloping R that Rebecca would use to sign all of her letters. But I will say this though, more so in the book than in the movie, I really got aggravated with the second wife. She was so terrified and full of anxiety, and it was almost like she was afraid of the house. She was afraid of Rebecca. She thought that her being there was a joke, And a couple of times I told my boyfriend, I said, I just want to slap her and just be like, honey, boo, please, grow a backbone, please. And she does, but in the worst way possible. But it's still a classic, such a classic story, absolutely divine. Like I just ate it like it was the fluffiest Madeline ever. But it was good for me. Like I said, I love the movie so much, and I said, you know, I owe it to myself to read the book, and I did. And I'm glad. And many thanks to Arapahoe Library for having this copy. It was so funny, little side story. So I went into my library, Sheridan, and I had returned a book. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm not really interested in getting anything. And immediately 10 minutes later, I was like, oh, check this. Oh, I want to check this out. I want to check this out. And I was like, all right, 2 books, no problem. So then I went over to the DVDs and I found 4 DVDs. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? And it was on my way to check out that I saw Rebecca on display. And I literally was like, well, shit. And I ended up getting the book. And as I walked by with my stack, walked by the 2 librarians, I was like, I did not come in here for all of this. And they're like, oh, well, you know, yes, you were. Librarians, y'all are enablers. Y'all really are. But I love y'all to death. So yes, for Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and tie in the Hitchcock film, which you really have to see because Laurence Olivier, I mean, come on. It receives Viridian Tea House's 4 pots of tea. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 was because, like I said, the unnamed wife in the book was even more insufferable than Joan Fontaine gave her class and style. And Joan Fontaine is beautiful. It was beautiful anyway. But in the book, she's very mousy, dowdy, frightened, you know, afraid of her own shadow, afraid of Rebecca, who's dead, afraid of the house, afraid of Mrs. Danvers, afraid of everything. And she was so desperate to have Maxim's love. She would do anything to make sure that he loved her. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is beyond desperate. I just can't. I can't right now. But it still adds to the story. She has to be this way. And you do watch her evolution, her gradual change. And what is it? There's a line that Maxim says, something like, the stars in your eyes, or that innocence in your eyes, it's all burned out now. And it's so sad. But because of Manderley and because of Rebecca, it had to happen. But anyway, I could go on and on. I could do like a whole Daphne du Maurier video. But yes, love Rebecca. And like I said, please watch the video, the film directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It is a classic. It really is. So now to the tea portion. Today's tea is Lipton, don't groan, Lipton's Magnificent Matcha. And it is green tea with pure matcha. So get a good look at that. So, and on the back it says, a moment of focus, matcha with the goodness of green tea. So, cool. All right. But anyway, so I was like, you know, I've talked to some people about matcha, but I don't think a lot of people know what matcha is all about. So, according to one of my books in my tea library, Stuff Every Tea Lover Should Know by Candace Rose Rardon, matcha, let's see here. There we go. In 1191, a Buddhist monk named Asai brought the Chinese method of whipped powdered tea back to Japan, where it became an essential component of the Japanese tea ceremony. So if you ever do a Japanese tea ceremony, you're going to get matcha, as it still is today. To produce matcha, the tea plants are shade grown for several weeks before harvest. As the leaves receive less sunlight than they would if grown in direct sun, chlorophyll levels shoot up, giving the tea a sweeter taste. Ceremonial grade matcha should thus be a vivid green. The leaves are then stone ground into a fine powder, which makes matcha the only tea whose leaves are consumed directly. And that's what I tell customers whenever they ask me. I was like, no, you're literally drinking the leaf because it's powdered tea. It's powdered tea leaves rather than infused. Finally, matcha is mixed with water using a traditional bamboo whisk called the chasen, which helps create the tea's iconic creamy texture. So as part of my own tea collection, I do have a matcha bowl and bamboo whisk. I actually have 2 or 3 of these. And I used to have these on my table just so that, I can start conversations with people, because I had a lot of customers who knew what this was, but a lot of customers are like, what in the heck is this? It's like, well, when you have your matcha and your water, you move the whisk like in an M motion to kind of whisk it up, and it gives like a creamy, frothy kind of taste to it. Some people don't care for the taste of matcha. They're like, oh my gosh, it's so bitter or it's so green or whatever. But in a lot of the Japanese tea ceremonies, they'll also serve very sugary candies to offset the matcha. Personally, I like the taste of matcha. I like that grassy green kind of taste to it. Plus, with matcha, you get quite a boost of energy because, like I read, you are drinking a powdered tea leaf, so it's gonna hit you double. But yeah, so that's the bamboo whisk and lovely matcha bowl. So I've already let my green tea and matcha steep for a while in my lovely people person mug. So this is my first time trying Lipton's matcha, but this is once again Lipton's Magnificent Matcha Green Tea with pure matcha. So I am getting the just traditional green tea taste. But the matcha, okay, there it is. I'm getting a little bit of the matcha taste too. And actually the color, I wish I had a transparent mug to show you, but the color, it's a little bit greener than normal, and that's the matcha, of course. Yeah, with every sip, I'm getting more of the matcha and less of the green. Like I said, I like matcha. I mean, I love green tea, but I love some matcha. That is quite good. And yeah, when I told you guys, don't roll your eyes because it's Lipton. Lipton really isn't bad. I mean, I know a lot of tea people, I can't talk today. A lot of people in the tea industry would roll their eyes as like, oh my gosh, you're drinking Lipton. I'm not gonna knock it. I'm really not. Lipton has pleasantly surprised me throughout the years, and I'm quite happy. As I'm talking to you, I'm getting that creamy taste of the matcha. Okay, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, one more thing about matcha too. So there's ceremonial grade matcha, which is used for Japanese tea ceremonies, but then there's also culinary matcha, which is more for if you're making like the different lattes or if you're adding matcha powder to like pastries or whatever. It's not any less than ceremonial, but some people say that the ceremonial is much better than, excuse me, the culinary. But again, I love matcha. I could just sit there and just drink cup after cup, and then I'd still be up at 3 o'clock in the morning washing windows. So if you're looking for a nice, calm focus with just a little extra oomph, try some matcha sometime. And thankfully, you don't have to go through all of this to make your matcha. It's perfectly fine if you want to do it that way to get the full experience. But there's a lot of tea companies out there right now that have made like matcha packets. You just pour into your hot water, or mixing it with green tea. So you just put the bag in your water, or matcha lattes. There's one company called Sencha, and they have a really good matcha latte mixture. The last one I tried was mango flavored, and it was quite good. It really, really was. So anyway, there's your little matcha 101. So that's all I have for today. But before I wrap up, let's do our breathing meditation accompanied with water or with tea. You know the drill. I won't go into it. This is just about breathing and just taking a break. So if you have your cup of tea or a glass of water and you're in a comfortable position, let's begin. All right. Did you hear that thunder? So let's end this meditation with a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Slowly open your eyes if they're not open already, or allow your eyes to come into focus and enjoy a nice sip of your water or your tea. Oh yeah, I'm getting that creamy matcha, definitely. So like I said, I don't know if you heard the thunder or not, but our June out here in Colorado has been very wet. In fact, I think it's rare if we go 1 or 2 days without rain. I've never experienced so much rain before. I mean, I didn't expect all this rain to be out here in Colorado, but you know, but it's making the temperatures cool, so I'll take that. Well, anyway, that's all I have for today. Many thanks to Daphne du Maurier and Milan Kundera, the good folks at Lipton. Also, Candace Rose Rardin for Stuff Every Tea Lover Should Know. And to all of you guys out there, thank you so much for watching this video and watching all the other videos, all my silliness when I get words wrong. Thank you so much. And if you like what you're seeing, please comment, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. If you don't like it, you know, be nice and just tell me if there's something that you're interested in seeing me do or talk more about. I'm more than happy to do a special video on a particular subject within the tea industry. So yeah, if you like what you're seeing, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. So that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself and each other. Raise your matcha-filled teacup high. And remember, to drink tea or matcha is to enjoy life. I don't know if you can see it. Hey. Yeah, the matcha's hitting me now. I'll see you soon, everybody. Bye for now.